Welcome to the Home Downsizing Show. My name is Ben Souchek, your host and the owner and founder of Home Downsizing Solutions. With the Home Downsizing Show, I want to provide you the information and resources to make the downsizing of your house stress and hassle-free. So sit back and enjoy the show. Thank you for joining us. Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Home Downsizing Show. This is Ben Souchek, the owner and founder of Home Downsizing Solutions. And today, I'd like to go over a few of the frequently asked questions that I get a lot over the past 25 plus years that I've been in the home buying business. Or questions that I think people should ask if they're not asking those. And so, again, in today's episode, I just kind of like to go through some of the most what we would consider the questions that people ask or should ask when they're thinking about selling a house, and especially to a cash home buyer or just in general, and especially if they're in the downsizing, if they're looking at downsizing and moving to a smaller home, apartment, or other type of senior living arrangement. One of the first questions that I hear is my house sellable as is, or will I need to do repairs or updating? And the common thought is if your house hasn't been updated recently, most buyers will be expecting repairs and updates to be made before they're willing to consider the house. Even if they're willing to consider buying the house in its as-is condition, obviously their offer is going to be much lower than if it was updated. For Home Downsizing Solutions, the company buys houses as is, so you don't have to do any repairs or updating. And you won't have the hassle and out-of-pocket expenses of the repairs and updating, finding contractors, managing contractors, and ensuring that the work is being done. And if you're living in the house yet, living in a house that's being updated, which cannot be a whole lot of fun. Next question is, my house has a lot of stuff in it that I don't want. What are my options? A typical buyer will expect that the house is clean and move-in ready or close to it when they're ready to move into the house and purchase a house. In regards to Home Downsizing Solutions, the company buys houses with or without the stuff in it. So you can take the things you want to take, sell the things you want to take, or give away the items that you want to give to charity or friends or family, and leave the rest. Home Downsizing Solutions will take care of any or all of the stuff that's left in the house. The next question is, who pays closing costs when I sell my house? Closing costs are traditionally divided between the buyer and seller. However, depending on the market you're in, the real estate market that you're in, the buyers typically always ask the seller to pay for some or all of the closing costs that the buyer will incur as well, including the buyer's loan origination fees and typically a 1-year home warranty. These items are, of course, negotiable, but if the buyer's demands aren't met, some will just move on to the next house, again, depending on the market, to see if another seller is more motivated. With Home Downsizing Solutions, they pay all of the closing costs when we buy the house. There are no surprises when a seller signs paperwork and then completes the sale and purchase of the house. The next question is, when do I need to be out of my house? So we sometimes hear that, okay, you can buy the house very quickly, but I'm not ready to move yet. The typical answer is when a house is sold, the buyer wants possession of the house that same day. It's understandable that if the buyer has signed for the loan, given the money to the seller, they're going to want possession of the house right away. But this can create an inconvenience if the seller wants to make sure that their house is sold before moving or even looking for a new place to move to. Sometimes the seller needs funds from the sale of their house to move or purchase a new residence. With Home Downsizing Solutions, when they buy a house, we can be flexible with moving and possession dates. We can purchase a house so the seller is certain that it is sold and that the buyer won't back out for some reason. But we will allow a seller to remain in the house for 30, 60, sometimes 90 days or more until they transition to their new residence. And this will eliminate the hassle and worry of the inconvenient moving dates or having to move twice in some circumstances. And in most cases, Home Downsizing Solutions can even assist with the moving cost or helping line up a moving company to make that happen, just to make the transition to a new residence easier for a seller. The next question is, how do I know if a potential buyer can actually get financing to buy my house? Having a buyer that can actually get financing and close in a timely manner, depending on the real estate market, is or can be a challenge. Almost all home purchase agreements have a contingency based on a buyer getting financing with a particular rate and term. Often the sale of your house is left to the frustrating whims of the lender. Even so-called cash buyers sometimes turn out to be buyers that need to jump through hoops to access funding to close. Ask a typical buyer what they're willing to do to ensure they can close, such as putting up a non-refundable deposit. And you often will not get much of an assurance that they can close. I have even encountered multiple times where my company has sold a house and have had an agreement from a potential buyer, where even the agent has said, well, this is a cash offer. But come to find out that the only way that it's a cash offer is if they went through the process of getting a home equity line on the house that they were buying, as soon as we basically simultaneously with closing, and then using that line of credit on our house that they were buying to get financing, and then they're going to supposedly give us cash. So be very careful when you're looking at purchase agreements. When someone says they have cash, they need to prove that they have cash. With Home Downsizing Solutions, they are a cash buyer. We have access to private investment funds that allows us to buy a house as soon as the title company has checked title and prepares the closing paperwork, which can be in as little as 3 or 4 days. We have even, in a couple cases, closed on the purchase of a house within 24 hours of getting a purchase agreement, which was only possible by the title company being very fast with everything that they did. But we were able to get that done within 24 hours. Next question, what if the house I want to sell is part of an estate, probate, or Medicaid related, which can often happen in situations with seniors in those circumstances. In circumstances like these, a house can be sold, although there can be legal items that need to be taken care of before the sale can be completed. There are times that typical buyers do not want to wait for the legalities to be completed or deal with the uncertainties that can happen in those circumstances. With Home Downsizing Solutions, We have worked with sellers in these situations numerous times. In some cases, we have even paid for the legal costs involved to provide a clear title in order to complete the sale. So again, Home Downsizing Solutions, we can assist a seller or their family if they have a situation where they need help, they need to figure out legally what we need to do or what they need to do in order to get that house sold for any of those circumstances. The last question that we'll go over on today's episode is, isn't using a real estate agent the best way to sell a house? Listing a house with an agent and having the house exposed to the market on the multiple listing service is sometimes a good solution. However, there are a number of considerations to take into account. Do you want to make repairs or updates for the house to be competitive on the market? Do you want to keep the house in a show-ready condition and prepared for agents to call at any time with potential buyers that may or may not be serious about buying? Am I prepared for the net amount of the sale to be much less than what the agent originally tells me it will be? If a potential buyer makes an offer on the house, am I prepared for the further negotiations and demands after the buyer gets typically a whole house inspection and the appraisal is performed? So those are opportunities where a buyer has the ability, I guess, or the chances are that they will renegotiate depending on what that whole house inspection and the appraisal may turn up. With Home Downsizing Solutions, when we buy your house, there are none of those hassles to deal with. We buy houses as is without all the hassles. We typically buy several houses each month. We've been doing that for decades at this point. So we're very familiar with all of those items that can happen when a person sells a house. We can close very quickly or on the seller's date of choice. Because we use private funds, we don't require long, drawn-out bank approvals. We can usually provide an offer for your house as soon as we inspect the property. We do our very best to be very transparent about how we make and create offers that we give you for your properties. So those are some of the most, I guess, common questions you might say that I've run into over the past 25 plus years of providing home buying services. And the common things that I think people should be checking into if they haven't thought of those things. So if you have questions about selling your property and would like some clarification or how Home Downsizing Solutions might be a good solution for you and your family, just give our office a call at 855-291-5005 or go to homedownsizing.com to contact us there. And thank you for listening to the show today. Also, if you'd like a free copy of my book, Home Downsizing Secrets, just go to, again, homedownsizing.com to get a free copy of the ebook, or just call our office, 855-291-5005. I hope you've enjoyed today's show. If there are topics that you'd like me to cover on future shows, just let us know, and I'd be happy to address those. Thank you again for listening, and have a great week. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Home Downsizing Show. For additional information and resources on home downsizing, just go to homedownsizingblueprint.com. That's homedownsizingblueprint.com. Or if you're ready to sell your house and downsize, just go to homedownsizingsolutions.com. That's homedownsizingsolutions.com. And if you have ideas to improve our show or topics that you'd like us to cover, or have any questions that we can answer, just call our office, toll free, 855-291-5005. That's 855-291-5005. Thank you.